A tiny Manhattan apartment sold for almost twice its expected value in 2024. Most people accidentally make small rooms feel even tighter because they use the wrong wallpaper direction. Vertical movement tricks your brain into seeing more height. Horizontal patterns usually crush the room visually. The biggest mistake? Covering every wall. Luxury designers usually focus on one expansion wall only. Nothing structural changed. Same room, same size, but now the space feels dramatically bigger. And once you add indirect lighting underneath the pattern, the entire room starts breathing differently. Professionals obsess over invisible seams because visual interruptions instantly break the illusion of space. That's the secret. Wallpaper isn't decoration, it's perception engineering. Small rooms create stress faster than most people realize. Your brain feels crowded before your body even notices. Most people try fixing small rooms the wrong way. Brighter bulbs, more mirrors, smaller furniture. The wall itself is usually the problem. Wallpaper changes perception, the way your brain reads space. That's why luxury hotels obsess over wall texture and line direction. They know the eye can be fooled. Vertical wallpaper stretches the room upward. The ceiling feels higher. The space starts breathing. Horizontal heavy patterns do the opposite. They visually lower the ceiling and crush the room psychologically. A pattern matters less than the direction. Even subtle texture can create the illusion. Most people wallpaper every wall in a small room. Honestly, huge mistake. Designers usually focus on one expansion wall. One wall changes everything. This creates forced perspective. Your eye travels forward passes, and the room suddenly feels deeper. Shift the wallpaper slightly higher than eye level. Suddenly, the eye lifts with it. That's why certain Airbnb listings look way more expensive than they actually are. Everyone assumes white makes small rooms feel bigger. Honestly, not always. Warm neutrals create depth through soft shadows. That's why modern designers moved away from pure white. Glossy wallpaper reflects too much light. Matte textures soften the room and make it feel larger. Combine matte texture with vertical movement, and a tiny room suddenly feels expensive. Visible seams instantly break the illusion. Your eye stops, and the room suddenly shrinks. That's why professionals obsess over seamless alignment. It protects the flow of the room. But the final trick happens after dark. Lighting changes everything. Indirect lighting activates the texture. The room glows instead of feeling boxed in. Luxury interiors use wall washing to create depth, softness, and emotional space. Wallpaper isn't decoration, it's perception engineering. Your brain isn't measuring the room, it's reacting to visual signals. Lines, shadows, texture. Your eyes process all of it subconsciously. That's why luxury stores use vertical design everywhere. Height feels expensive. Change the wallpaper direction, and the same room suddenly feels completely different. Soft textures create emotional comfort. Your brain reads softness as openness. One expansion wall guides the eye forward naturally. That's the illusion. Raise the visual focus upward, and the ceiling suddenly feels taller. That's why tiny boutique hotels often feel larger than normal apartments. Gray can either feel luxurious or emotionally dead. Most people choose the wrong shade. Warm neutrals create shadow depth. That's what makes a room feel alive. Glossy finishes bounce light aggressively. Matte finishes soften the entire room. The room doesn't physically grow, it just starts feeling expensive. When the eye keeps stopping at seams, the illusion collapses instantly. That's why professionals care so much about seamless alignment. Flow matters more than decoration. The final transformation usually happens at night. Indirect lighting activates texture. Suddenly the walls stop feeling flat. The room starts glowing instead of just existing. That emotional difference changes everything. Vertical movement, matte texture, one expansion wall, indirect lighting, that combination changes how a room feels. A tiny apartment can feel intentional, calm, and expensive without changing the square footage. Wallpaper isn't decoration. It's psychological architecture. Same apartment, same dimensions, completely different emotional experience. The best design tricks usually disappear once they're done correctly. A well-designed room changes stress levels before people even realize it. That's why luxury hotels obsess over perception. Spaciousness feels valuable. Your eyes aren't searching for square footage. They're searching for comfort and visual flow. Vertical movement tells the brain there's more space than actually exists. Lighting doesn't just illuminate a room, it changes the psychology of the room. That layered depth is what makes expensive spaces feel emotionally different. The room didn't get physically bigger, but emotionally, everything changed. Once you understand perception, you stop decorating rooms. You start designing how people feel. Good wallpaper isn't just seen, it's felt. Texture interacts with light every second of the day. Different textures create completely different emotional reactions. Before installation begins, the feeling is designed first. Technique matters because details decide whether the finish feels premium or cheap. Precision is invisible when done right, but everyone feels it. And suddenly, the entire room feels complete. That final moment is never about wallpaper. It's about atmosphere, balance, and how the space feels when someone walks in. Design is never only visual. The best spaces are remembered by feeling. The wall changes with the light, hour after hour. Texture creates movement, even when nothing in the room moves. That's when the material starts feeling alive. People touch surfaces they trust. A finished room should feel calm, even when nobody's inside. Precision at the edges is what makes the whole room feel intentional. Every detail supports every other detail. By night, the atmosphere feels completely different again. The eye sees the wall. The mind remembers the feeling. And that is how a wall changes the entire experience of a home. The experience starts before someone even steps inside. Light reveals what flat paint can never hold. Depth is created by layers, not size. Soft materials beside textured walls create visual contrast the eye loves. One wall becomes the anchor for the entire room. At night, texture becomes atmosphere. When everything feels balanced, the room becomes restful. Even a single line of light can change how the surface feels. When every element supports the mood, the design feels effortless. The wall stays still, but the feeling it creates keeps moving. In the morning, the room feels calm before anything begins. The closer you look, the more detail reveals itself. Light keeps redesigning the room all day long. Beautiful spaces are built where materials meet. A wall can quietly become the emotional center of the room. Then evening arrives, and the same wall feels completely new again. Texture doesn't disappear at night. It becomes richer. By night, the room feels softer, quieter, deeper. And in the end, it was never just wallpaper. It was the feeling the room leaves behind long after you walk away.